Welcome to the Tricord Advisors podcast, where we answer life's hard questions to help you make smart decisions with your money. I'm Jeremiah Lee, and this is Randy Barkley. We're both certified financial planners. I'm also a California licensed attorney. All right, today we're talking about cars. And cars. We've been laughing about this, but buying a car is such a different experience.
I hate buying cars.
That's right. I think most people do. You picture this. This is maybe 10 years ago. You pull up to a lot. There's 1,000 cars on the lot, whether they're used or new. You and your spouse, or just you get out.
The radar. As soon as you cross a line, here comes the person after you.
So you walk out and you're looking at the red one, and then you look at the blue one, and then up comes somebody and says,
"It's like a shark."
Yeah. How can I help you today? And the feeling that most people, I think, historically have had there is a little bit of, "Oh no, they found me," or "What are they going to do to get a deal over on me?" It's not a great feeling, and all the more when you go to a used car lot, you feel like someone's going to give you, "Oh, this is the one you want," and it's the lemon that they couldn't get off the lot. And
right.
So it's kind of like a buyer beware feeling, and I think there's some people that enjoy that. They like the sparring, and I'm going to get the deal. There's others that just dread that, and because of that, I think it drives some people to new cars just to say.
Well, again, I think the whole fear and trepidation of stepping into that environment, whether it's a used car or a new car, the buyer feels vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, candidly, if someone who thinks about this, when you walk in there, that salesperson does this all day long.
Right.
They maybe do it 20 times a day for every day. And this might be, you buy a new car every 5 years, 10 years, it depends how long, 2 years, depends how long you keep your cars. But they have a superior knowledge. They have superior experience.
They know what the profitability is.
They know how much they're actually going to make in the car. They have all the numbers, right? Not just that one. They know the financing. They know what they spent on the car.
Right.
They know some details. So you're walking into a relationship in which there's a power structure that's different, but you have the money. You're here to make a choice. And
again, I always want to hear the Jaws theme.
Yeah. As you walk through,
because you're going to end up losing a leg.
Yeah. So what we're talking about today is not 10 tips how to buy a car, but we're talking about how just the car buying has changed.
Well, the whole inventory has changed.
Yeah. There's so we have a number of things how the physical process has changed, and also just what exists. So let's start with that.
Well, again, I think COVID has changed so many businesses, and it's had everybody kind of take a look at the delivery of their product. We've all heard about the supply chain issues and everything else because of COVID and the chips and everything else. But more importantly, what car manufacturers have been able to look at through COVID is that they realize, wait a minute, we're supplying too many cars. We're putting out way too much inventory out there. So what you're seeing is the number of cars that look alike that's where they're going to concentrate on. If you want something different, you want a different color or different options and such as that, the dealerships or the manufacturer saying, fine, we'll give that to you, but most likely you're not going to find that on the lot.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay more for it, and you're going to have to wait.
Yeah. So inventory is not out at the dealerships.
Right.
It is still at the factory. Almost a more lean product. The chips and the fenders and the wheels are all still at the factories.
Right.
And there's the push out. So example being a car dealership that maybe had 300 cars, 200 cars on the lot might be down to 50 cars on the lot.
Right.
And there's one of the model you might want, but if you want it in red,
you want a white Camry, 4 wheels, no luxury, cloth seats, you're probably going to find that car.
Yeah, it's probably sitting there. But if you want something very specific, it's not there. So the you call it slim pickings, but they're not going to have the car that you want on the dealership. So you're probably going to have to order it. You probably sit down with the sales representative and order the car, and you're going to get it in a couple weeks.
And you're going to pay more for it.
Yeah. Ooh, that's the next one.
Because now it's not as though they have 10 of the same kind of cars on the lot
that they want to move.
They've got 0 of those cars on the lot. So you're going to end up paying for that specialty or those additional things that you add onto your car, and you're going to pay. You have a wait time.
Yeah, you may not get that deal. And so the other piece is, I remember going to car lots, and no one would pay MSRP. That's the pure price.
That's the sucker price.
Yeah, and then you, of course, are going to try and they're already giving you a slash of however many $10,000, $2,000, something off that MSRP, and then you try to get it lower and you negotiate with them and whatnot. But those days, and honestly, they're gone. But in the midst of COVID, they made up to MSRP plus. They were doing premiums over MSRP. A couple $1,000s or so to go above the MSRP. And I think currently they're back down to MSRP type pricing. but I've not heard anyone coming back saying that they're getting lots of discounts
No.
and deals and no
I think-
interest loans.
I think that the supply, the inventory is getting better than what it was during the midst of the COVID crisis. But what we're finding is the car prices are staying still pretty high. I mean, if you're going to buy either a used car or a new car, you're still going to pay in that higher end level. There's not excess capacity, I guess is what I'm saying.
Which means there's not good like deals in the sense of a steal of a deal. And the other aspect that's been an interesting dynamic, and this probably is unrelated somewhat to COVID, but I think COVID just exacerbated it, is the shift from a small station wagon or a small coupe type vehicle into these larger SUV type vehicles. And that's not just that they're pushing into it, it's what people are self-selecting.
Well, I call them the people haulers. I mean, they're the third row. If you got a large family or you're carrying around a large number, I mean, you're carrying over more than 4 people in your car. Typically, people are going to go get to that third row. Right?
Yeah, and so a little bit bigger cars, and those bigger cars cost more, and they usually have a little bit higher profit margin.
For sure.
So there's some articles we're reading that was talking about the median price of a car has been moving up notably, but it's not so much that cars are just getting more expensive. They may be doing that as well. But the biggest item is that it's actually skewing which cars people are buying. And, as Americans, we're buying more larger people moving cars that have just higher median prices.
And you would think with gasoline prices and all of the conversation about environmental stuff, you would think the cars would be smaller. Like you'd be like a European type of car, which is like a toy car. You get into it. It's so funny to see a European drive around in this car that could barely fit one, and they've got 2 people in there. They have to put their head out the window just to be able to drive down the road. But we're not in America. We don't have that. We've got where I live. I'm surprised the number of trucks around. I mean, these are big, and it's more than just a utility truck to go back and forth to work. They got these big wheels. They got all this extra equipment on it, and it's kind of a test of your manliness. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, trucks even like to get to a $50,000 to $100,000 truck is not unreal. That's
real fast,
right? That's fairly doable. And so people who are picking up, trucks or large SUVs, it's a higher sticker price. So I think that's a big deal as we're shifting into these. Kind of the other item is cars just cost more. Like there's more in there. Like it's not just a car in the sense that it has 4 wheels and it gets you around, but it's got technology, it's got Bluetooth, it's got connectivity, it's got heated seats. We're getting more for your money, but you're also just paying more
we
for
don't
these
have
cars.
Heated seats. We have air conditioned
There you
seats.
go. Even better. Welcome to Southern California.
Hit the button and it blows air where you want it to be blowing on it, right?
Yeah, that's right. So you're getting more and more features in these vehicles. And it's funny, even that you say with gas prices, a number of these vehicles have surprisingly good gas mileage.
Yeah.
Not compared to today or yesterday, but compared to say 10, 20 years ago.
If you go back to the early 80s and you look, I mean, I read an analysis on the amount of energy that was being used by a barrel of oil, like in 1980. Now, again, cars back in the 60s and the 70s were really gas hogs. I mean, you were lucky if you got 10 miles a gallon on them, and they lasted 50,000 miles. Now cars are getting, SUVs will get typically in the low 20s, 20 to 23 miles per gallon, and they last longer. Most cars, I think, are pretty much equipped to last at least 10 years or longer. I mean, I think Tesla has proven that if you take the internal combustion engine out, you're going to get tired of that car before it breaks and wears out. I mean, you're going to put 500,000 miles on that car. It's going to last for a long, long time. So again, I think the whole dynamic of automobile acquisition, use, whether you purchase, whether you lease, whether you finance, whether you use it for, I mean, again, and we're not even talking about autonomous cars.
Yeah.
Cars that go around without a driver in them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are absolutely frightened by that. But how are you going to get in that car that has a hologram as a driver in the front, right?
That's right. I mean, that's the brave new world that's coming.
Right.
And I guess another piece of this, which we haven't talked so much, but is also just that buying experience. You walk into a lot. There are so many commercials now on TV or otherwise.
Between pharmaceuticals and cars,
yeah, right.
You know, you're
watching the Super Bowl. You're watching football.
It is cars make a lot of money because they are, I mean, back to back to back to back.
And the car commercials used to be Ford, Chevy, whatnot, but a lot of ones I'm seeing now are, purchase at home, sit on your phone, find your car, they'll deliver.
It's the vending machine car, right?
Yeah, you see them in these big towers. You put in your code and the car just comes out. And CarMax, I think I read some of that. They're one of the largest dealers now.
For used cars, right?
Yeah, they're all used cars, what's coming out. But for places like that, they've taken out that feeling when you drive it to a used car lot. Oh no, what's going to happen? I got to negotiate. I got to, protect myself. They and others like them have just said, here's the price. It's not like a negotiation thing. It's the price. And
it is what it is.
Yeah, made it more of a transaction. And there's a part of that that's brought down these barriers or these difficulties.
Well, I think technology has really helped the consumer, because the consumer can go on their phone and look up a price. I mean, we always hear these ads, check what's the Carfax, right? What's the Carfax? So the consumer has more information in their hand.
Yeah.
So they know what the price of that car should go for.
Yeah, what's fair.
If it's been in an accident, they can get that information. They can pretty much get that at the moment, and that helps them in the negotiations. So 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that the consumer didn't have that information right now.
So you could have a flooded car or a totaled car that's
right.
been redone, and other than what it says on the title, salvaged or whatnot,
right.
You may not know. Whereas today, like you said, you can pull a whole report in your hand. So it's interesting when you talk about buying, used cars and new cars. It can be a whole different world. People can still go to a car lot and have the exact same experience they did 20 years ago.
But there's an article, and we're kind of taking some comments from this, but it says 5 ways that buying a car has drastically changed. This is an article from Wall Street Journal, and any of you listening to us right now that would like to have a free reprint of this article, we'd be more than happy to send it out to you. It's filled with a lot of good information, but it kind of talks about the trends and then currently what's happening, and also going forward what they feel is going to happen. But this, I think, will arm you with information to make you a better consumer, right?
Yeah, that's great. We're going to pivot a little bit from cars to the economy, but it's talking about, we have an analogy of cars, so
right.
So stay on this car.
This is the car episode.
That's right. Stay tuned. We'll hit you in the second half, and come on back. Welcome back. We're talking about cars today. We just talked about buying a car. Now we're going to pivot a little bit, talk about portfolios.
We're going to talk about a car that really matches your personality.
Yeah. So the question being, would you rather have a Maserati or a Toyota Camry?
I don't think I could even drive a Maserati.
Oh, I can figure it out. I can drive stick. It's fine. Yeah. So the question we bring that up is it's kind of, we're using it as an analogy to think about stocks. Would you rather have the Maserati, the one that's exciting, it's fun, it's
Ferrari. Let's talk about
Ferrari. Sure, Ferrari, right? Or the Toyota Camry, which is candidly boring. We call it the beige Toyota Camry.
It's dependable,
but it's dependable and it's driving. And part of this, when you compare this to stocks investing,
and we're not prejudiced, by the way. I mean, American-made cars have similar cars.
Oh yeah, we're not picking on Toyota. That's true. They're a great car. That's why we're bringing it up.
But we also, Ford, Chevy.
Yeah.
So
when you look at these two cars, we'll just take the Ferrari or the Maserati compared to the Camry. Which one's better, quote unquote? It really depends what you care about. The math is clear on which one will get you around the town better.
Right.
That's not even a conversation. Ferraris, Maseratis, they take care. They take replacements. They break down, but they're a fine-tuned machine.
Mm-hmm.
Camrys are known just to drive and keep driving, like a Honda as well. They keep going. So the math on which one's a better, quote unquote, investment in getting you around town is very clear. But which one, what's the point? Is it to be flashy? Is it to enjoy the driving experience?
Mm-hmm.
BMW came out with the ultimate driving machines, or tagline, to say it's just fun to do and fun to, so we're comparing that to when you build a portfolio.
How much fun do you have in a 5-mile commute? I mean, come on.
That's right. Well, we talked about
how much does that cost?
Yeah, someone who has a high-end race car type vehicle. Like when do you get to do?
When do you actually experience that?
When do you let it?
When you're in traffic going back between here and LA and Orange County, and you're bumper to bumper and doing 20 miles an hour.
The clutch is killing you.
Come on.
So with that, so let's transition this into stocks. There are these high-flying, exciting stocks that people have had for years. I mean, there's a whole number of them that they come and go over time that are exciting. Or there's a portfolio. So you have a portfolio of water cooler, like, hey, I got this one, I got that. Bitcoin for a while was excited about that. The meme stocks were exciting about that for a while. Then you also have the Toyota Camry of investments to say, hey, I bought quality companies that some people never heard of, and when they get to earnings,
I could give you a list of 10 stocks that have enduring quality. They pay dividends, and their stock value goes up and down, but over a 10-year period, they are consistent winners because they're just a product that is well needed. I mean, it's very well needed, but they're just well-run companies.
Yeah. And the math, similar to a Toyota Camry versus a Ferrari, which one is going to get you around town? Which one's a better deal in the sense of that? It's clear. It's that the Camry is going to be a better financial deal. The same with stocks over the long run. These quality companies that are boring, but just good quality companies.
I like a boring investment that just pays me a continual dividend.
They'll over the long run will do meaningfully better than these. Hey, I got the hot stock. I got the this one going up and down. And so what we're talking about a little today is how you put together a portfolio of holdings of stocks and just the philosophy behind it. You're not here to tell you which 10 stocks to buy, but to say the idea. And so one is, we'll just start with this: the Mega Cap 8. There are 8 stocks out there, Google and which is Alphabet and Apple and Microsoft. There's the 8 of them that have just done phenomenally over the last year, but also the next decade.
They've dominated the return since the first of the year.
Yeah, and they're getting so big that they are starting to dominate indexes. So the way that these 8 stocks go dictates how that index.
So if you buy an index, let's say if I bought a S&P 500, which makes up the 500 largest companies that are publicly traded that sell their stock over the New York Stock Exchange. Those 8 mega stocks made up nearly 30% of the total value of the 500.
Wow.
Well, that is way too much concentration. It's great if you're gambling and you're saying I bet this is going to go, but there's going to be a time when the casino is going to call their chips.
Yeah, and to that point, the Nasdaq, which is a more tech focused group, they actually just did a rebalance of some of their indexes of limiting those because it bumped up against their guidelines. And so the question being, do you buy those right now because they've been doing great, or do you avoid those because man, they're so high? And part of that comes back to your philosophy of what you're looking at. So a few of the philosophies we'll talk through is one is the equity to bond split. So this was the traditional, I want 60% of my portfolio to be in equities, so stocks.
Stocks and dividend paying stocks or growth stocks, whatever it is.
And I want the 60, I want the 40% to be in bonds. So fixed income, very stable. And people say the 60-40 portfolio, that's the best. And then if you're a little younger, maybe you want an 80-20 portfolio, 80% in equities. And that was kind of the end of it, just to say get a well-diversified, S&P 500 or S&P 1500, get a well-diversified equity holding, have some in bonds, and that's it.
Let it go.
So that's one that has kind of gone away with kind of modern theories. And a lot of the reason it's gone away is because they used to believe, and it was true at one point, that bonds and equities would respond inversely. So if equities are going down, bonds would go up, and it would protect your portfolio.
Yeah, and our business is what we refer to as correlated or uncorrelated.
Yeah.
And you wanted a portfolio made up of the growth stocks, but you wanted some non-correlated assets like bonds that help to kind of temper the volatility, right?
Yeah, and that has not existed in the last decade. They just have not held true. And so, like with COVID specifically, we saw bonds and equities both dive at the same time.
They were correlated right together.
Yeah, and that was not useful for some portfolios. So many people have shifted away from just an equity bond split into a number of other things. One other is sectors, to say we want money that's in the health sector, we want money that's in the tech sector, we want money that's in manufacturing. And they either rotate them through, feeling that each sector is doing a different job at a certain time, or they just keep them and say, I'm diversified because this money is in tech, this money. So their sector by sector is their philosophy. I want to be diversified across sectors. Another, which is taken a lot of popularity lately, is factors. So it's not a specific sector, but it's a factor. So it's a characteristic of a group of stocks.
So can you flesh that out a little bit more?
So one of the factors that we talk about is quality. So a quality factor is a company that has a good return on the equity, that they have stable growth, they have moderate debt. The idea of quality companies is if the world gets really tough, they're probably fine. They're not over leveraged.
You're going to continue to buy tissue.
Yeah, right. Things that are functional. Johnson & Johnson probably fits in that, I imagine. These robust long-term companies. The tech stocks that have a lot of momentum and they're not going to fit in that category. So quality is one. Another is value, to say, compared to the amount of profits they push out, their price is very low. So people could look at a screen and say, I only want to buy stocks that are kind of undervalued at the moment for whatever reason. So they call them value.
And cheap doesn't necessarily mean bargain.
Yeah, cheap doesn't mean good, right?
Right. You need to look at a stock and say, what is its potential? I mean, what's its footprint in the marketplace that it competes in.
So Warren Buffett, traditionally was this value investor. He was looking for a low price for higher earnings, and there was value there, so he would buy those. he had a famous quote at one point. He says, "Better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price." And that was kind of his public. He had already transitioned, but make it clear to the public, he kind of transitioned from value investing to more of what like a quality investing.
Yeah, and he saw some really good opportunities, and Apple is one of his biggest holdings in Berkshire, and Apple doesn't really fit the criteria that he invested in probably 15, 20 years prior to that.
Yeah,
right?
But then said this is a good company that has good fundamentals, good debt, good stable growth, and so he invested in that. So other I guess more exciting factors could be one is momentum. To say forget about how the company's doing, forget about their debt, forget about any of this stuff. Just look at their stock. And if their stock is moving up with momentum, there's some people who trade on factors will say, let's buy it. It's moving. It's got the people behind it. Let's go. And those tend to be more risky in that.
Well, they're more short-term plays,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, you'd run one for a while, then the momentum kind of stalls out and you jump to another one. And so as we think about a portfolio, compared to the cars, just to kind of say when you're building a portfolio, some people are looking for the water cooler conversations, just like they're looking for the Maserati. They want something that's fun and exciting to talk about. And others say, no, I want this to be around 10 years from now. Yeah, I want this to get me to my retirement. And so as you build that portfolio, whether you're looking at the mega cap 8 or the momentum, or just saying, I just want a quality stocks that are going to build my retirement, that's kind of the conversation.
Right. And I think, again, for our clients, most of our clients, what they want is control. They want to be able to say, this is what I want, but they also want to be protected. And we do a lot of work on the back end, making sure that what we're buying is in fact quality stuff. Now, we can't control the markets. They're going to fluctuate from moment to moment and from month to month. But at the long run, if you take a portfolio over a period of a year, 5 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it should have value and growth for your investment that you've made, right?
That's right. If you've missed any part of this episode, you can find us on our website, tricorderadvisors.com, or you can look for us on YouTube.
Until next week, folks, may you grow in wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for listening.